everybody, Edo here, and I have Seth along with me. Say hello, Seth.
Hello, Seth.
Hello, Seth, and this is a new top 10 games for couples in 2018, and that were reviewed in 2018. So some of these games are older, some are newer, but it's games that I've reviewed because you can go check out the reviews and see more details on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, as the parent of a small child, I've been housebound for large parts of the last few years. And that means my wife and I are always on the watch out for good two-player games. So I certainly have a list of a lot of good ones. I'll be curious to see kind of where our lists overlap.
Fantastic. And just to clarify, for my part, this list is not distinctly two-player games. And in particular, these are just like the top 10 games I ended up playing with Emily that we enjoyed from the list. So,
and there's certainly any number of games that aren't specifically two-player games that play with more. But, you know, there's some games that play really well with 4 or 5 players, but don't play very well with 2.
Absolutely.
So these kind of games that play well with 2 players.
These were all just games we really enjoyed. And also, if you're watching this when it's posting, Gaming with Edo Season 5 is live on Kickstarter. Any support appreciated. It goes a long way. Lots of great content this year. More to come. But let's jump right in. So my number 10, or our number 10, as I should say, is just all of the escape, unlock, exit games. It's sort of not fair. Like, in a certain way, this probably should be like number 1. But they're like just so much fun playing those. They're just great to play with your partner or whomever. You sit down, you play for an hour, you puzzle it out. Anytime those games come out, we pick them up, and it's just great time. So I really enjoy it.
I had a similar category on my list of just mystery games in general. You know, the unlock games on there. I put Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which I played as a kid and loved it, but we got an expansion last year or the year before with a whole new set of mysteries. I kind of saved those, so I haven't gone through all of them yet, but they're a lot of fun. With some Jack the Ripper mysteries in there. And then Chronicles of Crime, which is another game that just came out that's a fun little mystery deduction game with some of the information coming through your phone, but it's got a lot of replay value, and there are a lot of scenarios built in.
That's a great example as well. And I could have actually easily included Chronicles of Crime in this list, though I didn't. And speaking of which, I think coming through the door is Emily. So we'll say, hello, Emily. We are in our top 10 games, couple games. Games for couples. Couples with games, game couples.
You're a couple.
We're a couple. I am. We're a couple, but the couple we're talking about. Anyway, so Emily's back.
Right now, Ed and I are the couple.
Actually, you know, Emily, could you come around and say hello? No, just not even a wave.
Hi.
All right.
Back to the 2 of you.
Back to the 2 of us. Gentlemen. Okay, so next up is Azul, number 9. Azul is a gorgeous, fun puzzle game where you are collecting these awesome tiles and you're putting them onto your tableau and scoring points for sort of making lines and combinations. It's a little dense. It's a little slow. I think this is higher on other people's lists. Not quite as high on mine, but just a great game we really enjoyed.
Mine isn't in any particular order, but one that I first played with you, but have since gone on to play with my wife, is Fog of Love, which you reviewed. And it's a game that could have easily just been.
Have you played that with your wife multiple times?
Yes, we played it twice.
Wow.
It's a game that could have easily been just kind of a role-playing exercise, or could have easily been, you know, too mechanical to really be about emotions, and somehow it really hit a really nice balance where you actually play through weird little relationships and you see what happens, and it's a really fun game. I really enjoy it.
Awesome.
It just covers some different ground from other games out there.
Cool. So next on the list, number 8 is Welcome to Dinoworld. Interesting story here. That game was the Gen Cant contest winner, which I was the judge of along with a number of other people. Seth played that game with me and a number of them. But then we had the Kickstarter, which was picked up by Alley Cat Games. So we got to do a Kickstarter preview of that.
Fun. I haven't seen the Kickstarter preview version, but I loved it when it came out through Gen Cant. It was one of my. I was actually on vacation as those games are coming out, and we printed out some of those games we were playing, and that was one of the ones we really liked.
Awesome, and it scales to like 2 to what, probably 1 to 88 or something like that. But like definitely a lot of fun working on your map and checking it out and comparing it and all that stuff. Did you have?
Oh yeah, I have no shortage of games on this list. Another one is my wife and I. One of our favorite games is Lost Cities.
Oh,
so it's a classic
Emily loves that game.
Minor Kinesia game. Where you're kind of trying to collect sets of cards. And it was actually the first game we ever played on one of our earliest dates.
Ooh.
So I loved it so much I actually wrote about that in a book once.
I don't think Emily and I... When was the first time we played Lost Cities? I think the first time we played Lost Cities...
It was competitive.
Very competitive.
Oh, it's always competitive playing with my wife. That's why she prefers to play cooperative games.
Yeah, no. Yeah, anyway. So, number 7 is Istanbul, the dice game. Now, we've actually reviewed Istanbul Letters and Seals this year as well, which was an expansion of the base game. Emily and I love the base game. I would include that, but that was from years gone by. But the dice game's great. It's fast. It's simple. It really does carry the experience and has some nice different decisions in there. And we just liked it and enjoyed it. And it's a smaller form factor. It's easier, quicker to set up. I think it's a nice sort of compact version of Istanbul.
Speaking of dice games, one I have here on my list is Sagrada. Again, a game that if you're watching this channel, it's probably you know about Sagrada and you've checked it out. But I think it plays really well as a 2-player game. It's got some really interesting little choices going on, and kind of a fun game to play together.
Just looking for all the different... There it is. So next up on and Sagrada is good. I'm a role player versus Sagrada role player guy, but Sagrada's a lot of fun too. And next we have Ticket to Ride New York. Ticket to Ride New York is the smaller, compact, I think it's probably 2 to 3 player Ticket to Ride, but it plays in 20 minutes, and you get all the Ticket to Ride fun in 20 minutes.
Yeah, Ticket to Ride is one of the games that we can't play in the house because I get too competitive.
Yeah, and
I played a lot of Ticket to Ride on iOS, and so I can shark people, or at least my wife at Ticket to Ride.
And Ticket to Ride main version 2-player, which you can do, turns into either you're like hyper competitive to stomp out your opponent, or you're basically like playing a part and just never really like everyone's just doing that like draw 2 cards, draw 2 cards, draw 2 cards, and you start playing when you've got like 40 in your hand.
Right.
But I think Ticket to Ride is small enough that it is a little not cutthroat, but it's a fast enough game that it doesn't feel quite as like I can't believe you took that road.
Right.
I hate you. Try to avoid those situations.
Another one, I think it was one of the early games I ever played with you, and I love it, Akrotiri, that just got a re-release
These are
last
just
year.
classic awesome games.
Yep, but it was out of print for a while and just got a re-release this year, so you should be able to go out and find it now. Classic little game of exploring and got a really clever little market built into it, and one of my absolute favorite games. And if I'm looking to play a 2-player game with someone that I've never played with before, that's one of the ones I'll bring to the table.
That's a good one. We have reached the number 5 mark. Like I've been doing in many of these videos, I am going to cut it so that I know that we're recording, and then we will restart. And we're back. So these are the top 10 couples games, not necessarily 2-player games, though some of them are, of 2018, or that were reviewed in 2018 for my part. Seth is just including his epic list. But coming in at number 5, a game recommended by Seth, Situation 4. Situation 4 was made 30 years ago.
And I first heard about it via an article on the web, and I was like, this game sounds so ridiculous that I can't believe it exists. And my wife went out and got it off eBay for me as a Christmas present, I believe.
And it's up there. We have it. Situation 4 is a head-to-head, real-time jigsaw puzzle war game where you are jigsawing to cover as much as the map as the opponent is as they're working towards you. You're working towards them. You're releasing units. You're attacking, defending. It is outstanding.
As you complete various areas of terrain with the jigsaw puzzle, you get little planes and tanks that you can advance across the battlefield.
It's great.
It
would in fact be number 1 on this list. It really is. And I was like, why am I not putting it at number one? It is number one, but it's so intense. It's like so intense that you couldn't play it that many times. And I actually think it's not like the replay isn't there. I think the replay is there, but like it's super intense. So like I just felt because of the level of conflict and the sort of, it might not be for everybody, and I don't know. That's why I put it at 5.
It also has the downside that you might first think of when you hear jigsaw puzzle, and that is it's not that complex a jigsaw puzzle, and after you've played a few times, you kind of know how the jigsaw puzzle goes together. So the replay value diminishes a little bit, which is why they said, I think they knew that when they made the game, because a few years later they came out with Situation 7.
Circle your puzzle.
Yeah, which is set on the moon, which is round. So you're putting together a round puzzle. So it's a little trickier. Even that still has problems. I'm still waiting for someone to kind of use some of the same mechanics but solve that replayability issue.
Yeah, I was so blown away by this game that I actually looked into what it would take to do a jigsaw puzzle game, and I started down the path. Did you have another one?
There's always more. I mentioned a little bit earlier that my wife gets super competitive, and so she actually prefers when we're just the two of us playing to play cooperative games. And one of the series of games that we've enjoyed playing together is the Panic series from Fireside Games, starting with Castle Panic.
Castle Panic!
So Castle Panic, where you have a round environment, if not a round board, with a castle in the middle, and there are monsters coming towards your castle, and you're looking to take them down before they approach and break apart your castle and defeat your castle. It was followed up a couple years later by Dead Panic, where you're all holed up in a cabin and there's zombies coming to attack you. And then finally, 2 years ago, by Star Trek Panic, which is probably the craziest of the bunch, where you are the Starship Enterprise in the middle of space, and there's Klingons trying to attack you, and you get to play various members of the Starship Enterprise, and you play through like all kinds of missions and things. It's a really fun series of games.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So coming in at number 4 is actually Kodama. Is that right?
Yeah, Kodama.
Kodama Duo. So Kodama was probably a 2 to I think it was like a 2 to 4, 2 to 5 player game.
Yeah.
But they did a Kickstarter of a Duo version, which adjusted some of the rules and tweaked some of the cards to just make it play better with 2 players. Great game to start with.
Yeah.
And it just sort of made it just that much better as a 2-player game, and it's pretty, and you're playing off of other people, so it's competitive, but it's not so head-to-head competitive. You can't really thwart people too much, and so we like it a lot.
Yeah, I love Kodama, so I'm looking forward to Kodama Duo. Let's see, game that I really enjoy, slightly more abstract but also a lot of fun, is Onatama. Which is a game where you kind of like a weird semi-chess variant in that you have 4 pawns and a king, essentially, and you are trying to either take out all of your opponent's pawns or get your king to the other side of the board, or maybe it's the other way around, I can't remember. But the interesting part is that you have 2 different moves you can make. And, you may be able to move a piece diagonally or move a piece forward 2 spaces. Your opponent has the same, and then there are 2 cards on the side. After you choose what move you're making, it goes over to the side, and then you get one of those 2 cards. So basically the set of moves is set in that game, but they're rotating back and forth between you and the other player. And so it's what ability do you want to give to the other player by using it now? And it's a really fun little back and forth. There are lots of different moves, which gives it a lot of interesting replayability for me. And it's another one of those games. If you find the right player, it can be a game you play a lot.
And so this is an interesting one. It's very popular. It happens to fall into the category of a very popular game that I just don't like.
You don't get to play it with me.
But as I've been having a conversation over my Bratz review, I can appreciate a game that other people like, which isn't for me.
Yeah.
So coming in at number 3 is a 2-player game, Patchwork. Patchwork is a game where you are making a quilt, or I guess forming little
Tetramos?
Tetronimos. And you are just sort of puzzling it out and filling your little Tetris space. And it's really thinky but fun. And the way you pick pieces around the quilt, around the scoring board, I guess, feels very fresh and novel. I think had a couple quibbles that like your first play you can be like hyper negative points, and it's bigger than you think it's going to be in terms of table space, but it's a blast and a very good couple game.
A game that came out through Kickstarter a couple of years ago, and I've seen it in stores, but I haven't made people talking about it, but I enjoy it. It's a 2-player game from Atlas called Hounded, and that's because one player plays a fox, and the other player plays the hunter and the hounds, the hunting party. And you have 2 different goals. The hunter player must move 3 other pieces, and then the fox, after they only gets to move a few spaces, but after they move, they reveal what terrain they're on, and that can have different effects. And the hunter is trying to corner the fox. The fox is trying to reveal as many tiles as possible, either to discover where the 3 day tokens are hidden, like they've been out morning, noon, night, they've evaded the hunting party all day, or by just sheerly uncovering a lot of terrain. I think it's like
10 or something.
No, it's like 43 out of the 49 tiles. You have to uncover a lot of the tiles to win that way. But it like Otama is another fun game where there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. The hunting party, I think that the hunting party has 6 different tokens. Like there's a hunter and dogs and a few other pieces, and they each have their own types of moves. So it's you're making the choice of, okay, I have to move 3 pieces. Which pieces am I going to move based on their rules that put me in a good position to try and corner the fox? And it's a really fun little game.
Yeah, I haven't played it. They actually, Atlas does Murder of Crows, and they did the Murder Crow, like, 2nd edition tin, and it's in the same size box. So I've seen it a number of times, but I haven't played it before.
Yeah, I love the graphic design of it, too. Actually, it was the graphic design that attracted me to the game first, and there just happens to be a fun little game attached to it.
Awesome. So the next game, number 2 on the list here, was a game that's a retail game, but sent to me by the designer, and I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but it is Movable Type. Have you played Movable Type?
I have not.
Movable Type is a word game where players are essentially drafting letters and then using a sort of common pool to create words, and you have a bunch of different authors. The game's gorgeous. It plays well. I mean, it's got that paperback feel a little bit, but it's simpler, and just a really fun, simple word game that, for me, since you are drafting letters and there's a little bit more game around there, it's not quite the, like, who's got the better vocabulary and spelling game, because Emily would just win. So there's a little bit more of a space to play there.
Let's see. Straying away from newer games, I'm going to go back to a game that actually came out in the 80s first, but is still out there and still being played because it's a great game, and that is Set.
So that's pretty good. I think Set breaks Emily's brain too much.
It definitely can. It's one of those games where if you want a lot of like really active, like we're doing this and we're doing that, Set is not necessarily the game for you, because it's a game where you lay cards on the table and everyone sits there and stares at it until someone goes, Set. And that can get kind of intense once you really get into it, but it really does activate a different part of your brain. If you're really into Instinct coming out now, which is very much based on kind of your visual parsing of images, Set is the game for you, where you're looking for what set of cards out of the cards on the table have something in common. And it can be interestingly tricky from time to time.
Yeah, I made a mobile game called Monkeys Ahoy around some of those concepts, but I distinctly remember playing Set for the first time, like in 7th grade, in the back of the classroom.
I'm always poking around the games section of bookstores, and I actually found a book where a bunch of mathematics professors dissected various aspects of Set. So there's cool stuff going on in that game.
Set dice, not as good as Set.
No.
So, number 1 this year is Dragon Castle. If you're not familiar with Dragon Castle is essentially a mahjong puzzle game like thing where you set up this board of domino-like tiles. Well, they're not dominoes because they're not double-sided, but just they feel like dominoes. But what material is a domino made out of? Domino.
Plastic these days. They were made of ivory.
Well, they're probably not ivory.
Not ivory.
Heavy plastic, domino-esque material.
They have that certain domino feel, kind of like poker chips. Feel like poker chips.
Yeah, so they feel like domino chips. Anyway, and you have this gorgeous pile of them, and you're selecting them and making your own little cat village tower thing in front of you. It's outstanding. Tons of fun to play. Really impressed with it. What is the name of that company? Terrible Monster, Terrible Green thing? Horrible Games. Not a Horrible Game by Horrible Games. So that is number 1. How about you, good sir?
I believe it or not, have exhausted my list, so we could leave it there.
Exhausted. So that is the top 10 games for couples, though not necessarily only 2-player games. Many of mine in particular could be played with more, though some of them are particular for less. And again, as a reminder, Gaming with Edo Season 5 Kickstarter is live. If you like this content or previous content or anything and you want to support, please do. It's appreciated. And if there are some games missed or suggestions or thoughts, always looking for some great games to play with Emily when she isn't frustrated with me doing all these videos. So, thanks a lot for watching. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.